The attorneys of record are present, and with that, the defense may call its next witness.
Thank you. The defense calls Anna Young.
Ms. Young, could you step over here and I'll swear you in, and then you'll be seated over here, okay?
Sure.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Ms. Young, right there, if you would, please. All right, the defense may proceed when it's ready.
Please state your full name.
My name is Anna Young, and my last name is spelled Y-O-U-N-G.
Where are you employed?
I'm employed by the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation, Criminalistics Laboratory in Ankeny, Iowa.
How long have you been employed at the Division of Criminal Investigation Crime Laboratory?
Approximately 10 years.
What are your official duties?
I'm assigned to the impression evidence section. The majority of what we do is latent print analysis. So we process or evaluate latent prints on physical evidence. We compare and render decisions based on those conclusions.
How long have you been working in the field of fingerprints?
Approximately 10 years.
Tell us about your education and your previous employment.
I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in anthropology from Iowa State University. I also have a master's degree in forensic science from Nebraska Wesleyan University. I began my career with the Des Moines Police Department in their crime scene unit for approximately 5 years. And then I began my employment with the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation. I entered a structured 2-year training program where I was able to attend outside training as well as be mentored under a qualified examiner. I am also a certified latent print examiner through the International Association for Identification.
Could that be repeated for the interpreter?
I'm sorry, which part?
The name of the last sentence.
International Association for Identification.
Have you provided my office with a CV that thoroughly discusses your training and experience?
I did.
I'd offer Defendant's Exhibit B at this time.
And just so I'm clear, did you say B as in boy?
V as in
Okay.
Valentine.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brown, any concerns about that?
No objection.
Defendant's Exhibit V is entered into evidence.
Do you have any specialized training in the relation to latent prints?
I do. I completed my structured 2-year training program and I attend trainings annually.
Briefly educate us on what a latent print is.
A latent print is the chance reproduction of the friction-ridged skin, which is the skin that's on your palms, your fingers, the soles of your feet and your toes, on the surface of an object, usually in sweat or body oils.
Would a person's, well, let's say, would my latent prints match any other person?
No, they should be individual to each person. And so all of your fingers are different from each other and different from everyone else.
What does friction ridge skin mean?
It's the ridge skin that's on the palms of your hands, your fingers, the soles of your feet, and your toes.
How is fingerprint evidence submitted to your lab?
It can be submitted in various ways. Sometimes agencies will provide us with physical objects to process for latent prints. Sometimes we receive what we consider latent print lifts that are objects that have been processed by someone else at a crime scene and then submitted to us for examination.
I want to talk to you about this case. And specifically, you were submitted some items that were found in the back of a trunk of a black Malibu. Is that right?
That's correct.
Could you describe for the jury what you received from the black Malibu, the trunk specifically?
Do you want me to go through each object that was in there?
I want you to describe it in general, and then we'll talk about what you did with it.
To ensure the accuracy of my testimony, would it be okay if I referred to my notes?
That's fine.
Thank you. I'm referring to the laboratory item 62. And within that laboratory item, there were 14 items that I individualized as 62.1 through 62.14 that I then examined for latent prints. 62.1 was a red ice scraper. 62.2 was a clear storage box with fishing hooks. 62.3 was an empty Pepsi can. 62.4 was a pink child's ear exam toy. 62.5 were egg sinkers plastic bag. 62.6 was snap-on floats bag with floats inside. 62.7 was a black plastic plug. 62.8 was a black piece of plastic tubing. 62.9 was a volleyball. 62.10 were Marlboro coupons. 62.11 was a gray plastic Walmart bag. 62.12 was a SpongeBob feed bag. 62.13 was a partial roll of wrapping paper. 62.14 was a black plastic vehicle part.
So in this case, you received all of those items in your lab, is that correct?
That's correct.
What were you requested to do with those items that were found in this trunk?
I was requested to process them for possible latent prints.
Did you process each and every item?
I did.
Were you able to find any latent prints suitable for identification on any of those items?
Yes, I was.
Which items were you able to find latent prints suitable for identification?
62.1 and 62.2, which were the ice scraper and the fishing plastic box, respectively.
Let's talk first about the ice scraper. You were able to develop how many latent prints?
1.
Did you analyze those prints?
I did.
And when you analyze those prints, describe the process that you use.
When we first look at an object, we look at it for suitability when we look at a latent print. And what we're looking for is what we call individual characteristics. And that means it can be broken down into basically 3 things. A bifurcation where 2 ridges come up and one ridge comes up and splits into 2. An ending ridge where a ridge comes up and ends, and a dot, which is exactly what it sounds like. So we're looking for those individual characteristics and their relationship to each other, and then in relationship to the print overall. If we feel like there's enough of those individual characteristics, then we will conduct a comparison. And in this case, I did conduct a comparison.
Right, so you found 1 latent print on the scraper, is that right?
That's correct.
And then you also found 2 latent prints on another item, is that correct?
It's 3.
3 latent prints, okay. Where did you find those?
The 3 latent prints were located on the fishing clear plastic box.
After you've developed the latent prints, you then try to compare them with other prints known to the case or the system, is that right?
That's correct.
And in this case, did you do that?
I did.
Okay, what were your results? Let's first talk about the scraper.
The scraper, the latent print, was what I classified as an impression, which means I couldn't tell if it was from a finger or a palm print. And I wasn't able to make a conclusive same source comparison in this case.
What about the box 62.2?
62.2A was also an impression, which means I couldn't determine whether or not it was a finger or a palm, and I was not able to make a same source conclusion for that impression. 62.2B and C were fingerprints, and I was able to say they were not made by the same source as the copies of finger impressions bearing the name Cristhian Bahena Rivera.
All right, so you're provided with Mr. Bahena Rivera's fingerprints, is that right?
I was.
And you compared those fingerprints to 62.2B and 62.2C, is that right?
I compared them to all four of them.
All right, but in reference to 62.2B and 62.2C, you were able to eliminate Cristhian Bahena Rivera as a source of those prints, is that correct?
They were not made by the same source.
No further questions, thank you.
Mr. Brown, you may cross-examine,
Thank
or
you.
the state, I should say.
Yeah, that's mine, Judge. Thank you. Ms. Young, did you assist in attempting to obtain the fingerprints off of a body later known as Mollie Tibbetts?
I did.
And describe for the jury what you did in an attempt to get identifiable fingerprints off of Mollie Tibbetts' body.
I proceeded to the medical examiner's office twice in an attempt to gain her, Ms. Tibbetts' known fingerprints. Ms. Tibbetts' remains were not in a condition where I was able to obtain any known prints from her.
Okay, so you weren't ever able to get the known fingerprints of Mollie Tibbetts, correct?
I was not.
And as far as you know, they did not exist anywhere in any system that you had access to do any type of comparison. Would that be also true?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. The two prints that were suitable for identification that you found on items in the trunk of the black Chevy Malibu were on fishing equipment. Would that be a fair characterization?
3 of them were on the plastic box that contained fishing equipment.
Can you tell the jury when a fingerprint is placed upon any item?
I cannot.
And is it very possible that the prints that you identified on the plaque or the plastic box could have been placed there weeks or even months before?
They could.
What does it take, in your estimation, to destroy an identifiable fingerprint? And what I'm referring to, I don't mean to throw you a curveball, but what I'm referring to is if there's an identifiable print on an object like the fishing box, how is that print, how would it be destroyed?
It could be destroyed numerous ways. Repetitive touching is one, if someone picks up something the same way over and over again. If a surface is smeared, or if it's been cleaned, if it's been left out in the elements. Those are some variables that can go into whether or not it stays for a particular period of time.
And if it's protected from those elements, how long can a fingerprint stay on any given item?
Indefinitely.
Okay. And are you aware, Ms. Young, that Mollie Tibbetts has been associated with the trunk of the black Malibu where the items that you tested came from?
I have, yes.
Is it very possible, in your opinion, that Mollie Tibbetts could have touched those things while in the trunk and you have nothing to compare it to? Is that possible?
It's possible.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any redirect?
Yes, ma'am. It's also possible that another person could have touched that item in the trunk, isn't it?
It's possible.
Now, the fingerprints that were submitted on behalf of Cristhian Bahena Rivera were not of good quality, is that correct?
They were not complete known impressions.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that the entire portions of the palms and the fingers were not recorded adequately to make a determination as to whether or not they came from the same source.
You noted in your report that clear and complete major case prints are necessary to complete the entire comparison. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
And so specifically, did you communicate with investigators saying if you had better prints, you might be able to get more information?
I communicated through my report.
Were any other fingerprint cards submitted in reference to Cristhian Bahena Rivera?
No, they were not.
Now, if further prints had been submitted, you would have compared those, isn't that right?
That's correct.
And so you could have further examined the evidence and looked at it to see if my client's prints matched those for identification. Is that correct?
I could have done additional comparisons.
Along with that is if other fingerprints on behalf of other possible suspects were submitted, you could compare those for identification. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
But where we stand here, we don't know who made the prints that are in the trunk. Is that correct?
That's correct.
No further questions.
Mr. Brown, anything else to this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Ma'am, thank you for being here. You're excused.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the defense recalls Dalton Jack.
Okay, Mr. Jack, I'm going to swear you in again. Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. And you know where to be seated? All right. Mr. Freeze, you can proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Jack.
Good afternoon.
You testified here a few days back, correct?
Yes.
Had a chance to reflect on that testimony?
No.
You haven't thought about what you had to say?
No.
I'm sorry, you had to speak up some.
Oh, sorry. No.
So there's nothing about your testimony here in open court the other day you wish to clarify or correct?
No, I'm clarified.
Okay. Mr. Jack, I want to expand on a few things we talked about the other day. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
The first thing I want to talk about, Mr. Jack, is Mollie Tibbetts herself. Tell me first, if you would, describe in your own words Mollie Tibbetts.
She was a happy, bubbly, goofy person that just everybody kind of got along with.
I'm sorry I didn't hear that last part.
Everybody got along with her?
Everybody got along with her?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
She was kind?
Yes.
Kind to everybody she met?
Yes.
Did you know her to have an enemy?
No.
Did you know her to have any confrontations with anyone?
No.
How about strangers? How did she treat people she never met before?
She was nice to strangers.
Okay. You've had a long time to think about this and think about Mollie's loss of life. Can you think of anyone who would have wanted to visit her any harm?
No.
Would you agree with me that she was the kind of person who always put a best face on for others?
Absolutely, yes.
She always wanted to make those around her feel better, right?
Yes.
And she always wanted to appear happy, right?
Yes.
If somebody needed a hand, she was always there to offer it.
Yes.
Whether she knew you or didn't know you, she was always willing to help, right?
Yes.
Describe Mollie's physical stature. I mean, she was small, right?
Yeah, she was a very small individual.
Okay, when you say very small, I mean, well, how tall was she?
5'2", 5'3".
And do you know her weight?
130-ish pounds.
Okay, so she was a small woman, small framed.
Yes.
Was she the kind of person who, though, if she were attacked, would be one to fight back?
I mean, anybody would, but yeah.
Okay, well, she was spunky.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, again, you can't think of anybody in this world who would want to visit harm upon this particular individual, right?
No, sir.
And do you know her as well as anyone, in your opinion?
Yeah.
Okay. when she would go jogging, would anyone ever stop and just talk to her?
Not that she'd ever mentioned before.
Okay. Well, if someone was stopping to talk to her when she was out on a jog around Brooklyn, is she the kind of person who would have a conversation with someone?
She would talk to him, yeah.
Whether she knew him or not?
Yeah, most likely.
Okay. Would that even translate to someone out on a country road?
I would imagine so, yes.
So if someone comes up to her on a country road and wants to talk to her, she's the kind of person that would strike up a conversation?
She wouldn't strike up the conversation, but yeah, she would have a conversation with that person.
Okay. So, knowing what you know about Mollie Tibbetts, if she were out on a country road jogging and someone comes up and talks to her, she's the kind of person who would stop and have a conversation with that person?
She would stop and say at least hello, yes.
Okay. She wouldn't immediately get scared or angry, would she?
No.
She wouldn't immediately get confrontational, would she?
Not.
Objects calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Based upon your experience in knowing Mollie, do you think she would be the kind of person that would do that?
She wouldn't.
Objection. It's the same question.
Overruled, the witness may answer if he knows.
She wouldn't do any of that unless she was provoked to.
Okay. And how long did you know Mollie before she disappeared?
We had been dating for 3 years, but we went to a very small school, so we'd known each other, or at least of each other, for a very long time.
Well, what's a very long time, Mr. Jack?
I believe she moved from California to Brooklyn in the 4th grade, and I was a year older than her, so since the 5th, we would have known of each other.
Okay, so 4th grade is, help me here, 9 years old?
I don't know either. I'm going to be real.
You knew her for probably at least 10 years, right?
Yes.
And she didn't become this nice, happy person overnight, did she?
No.
She was always this way, am I right?
For as long as I can remember, yes.
And you said she wouldn't do this as far as getting angry unless she was provoked. Is my understanding correct?
Yes.
In the 10 years you knew her, tell me how many times you saw her get provoked.
So I'd like to reframe and say that I didn't, hang out with her very often or know her that well outside of the 3 years that we dated. So I can't speak on those 7 years, but those 3 years that we together, not very often.
Less than 5?
I'd say that's fair, yeah.
Okay. 0 probably.
Yeah.
No one ever provoked Mollie.
Judge, I'm going to object. He's already asked and answered the question.
Overruled, the witness can answer, and then we'll move on.
No one ever provoked Mollie in the 3 years you were together, right?
Not to my knowledge, I guess.
She was one who liked to de-escalate situations, didn't she?
Judge, I'll object again. This is asked and answered. Same ground we're plowing again.
Question's not been asked and answered, so it's overruled. Go ahead and answer if you know, sir.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Can you read it back, please?
She was one who liked to de-escalate situations, didn't she?
Yes, I would say so.
In your relationship with Mollie, like any relationship, there's usually one personality who's a little stronger than the other personality. Would you agree that that was kind of your relationship with Mollie?
I guess so, yeah.
Would you describe yourself as the stronger personality or the weaker personality?
In terms of what?
Would you get angry more than Mollie?
Yeah.
And how would Mollie respond to you those times that she would get angry? Or you would get angry, I'm sorry.
She would try to calm me down, that's for sure.
Sure. And that was her nature, right?
Yes.
Even when you had done something that clearly was wrong to her, she always took the high road. Is that a fair statement?
I don't remember any instances in which that was the case, but yeah.
Okay. And we'll talk about those in a bit. Now, it's your testimony, Mr. Jack, that you had nothing to do with Mollie Tibbetts' abduction. Is that what I am to understand?
Yes.
You had nothing to do with Mollie Tibbetts' death, right?
Correct.
You loved her too much, is that right?
That, and I wouldn't harm her or any innocent person, but yes.
You two were going to get married, is that right?
Yes.
Did she know this?
Yeah.
Okay, what were the plans?
Plans were my brother's wedding was to be in Punta Cana about, I don't remember the exact date, but it was August. We had already gotten passports and everything. to go down there, and like I was going to propose on the beach down at Blake's wedding.
So did Mollie know you were going to propose on the beach?
Yeah, I kind of jumped the gun on that one in bed, and I just like spilled the beans.
To Mollie?
Yes.
And when and where did you spill the beans?
I mean, in my bed at Blake's house.
When?
No, I don't remember the exact time, but it was, I don't know, shortly after they had made the plans to do the wedding down in Punta Cana.
Okay. And when were the plans made for the wedding in Punta Cana with Blake and Allie?
That was Blake and Allie's wedding plans in
Yes.
general. They were doing a destination wedding, and the whole family was going down there to watch them get married, yes.
Sure. What I'm trying to figure out is, when were the plans made by you to propose to Mollie on the beach and you spilled the beans? Was it a year before Mollie's death? Was it 2 years before Mollie's death?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I don't know the exact timeline on that. It was probably under a year.
Okay. And Mollie said yes?
Yes.
You bought her a ring?
Yes.
An engagement ring?
Yeah.
And where'd you buy it?
K Jewelers.
Okay. And was she wearing it?
No.
Where were you keeping it?
At the house.
Okay. What'd you pay for it?
$2,500
Okay.
ish.
Okay. And you'll agree with me that during that year between when the beans were spilled and Mollie disappeared, you and Mollie's relationship went up and down several times, right?
Correct, yes.
You guys talked about breaking up a number of times, right?
Correct, yes.
And the most recent time you talked about breaking up was the end of June, 1 month before she disappeared, right?
I don't recall, but if that's on a record somewhere, then I would agree, yes.
Okay. How many television interviews did you give after Mollie's disappearance, Mr. Jack?
I don't object to relevance.
Overruled at this time, we'll see.
I don't have an answer to that. It was a lot. I didn't keep count.
Okay. When's the last time you talked to Jordan Lamb?
In terms of like,
Talk?
no, she messaged me about coming here to testify. That would be the last time that I talked to her.
How'd she message you?
Over Snapchat?
She called you over Snapchat.
Yes.
And you two talked about your testimony?
No, she just asked me why she was having to come here. That's about it.
Okay. Now, Snapchat, you can call people like a telephone on Snapchat, right?
Yeah, that was news to me too. I didn't know that.
Okay, so when you use Snapchat, you always did the like texting thing, right?
Yeah.
Never used it like a phone.
No.
Now, last week when you were here, you gave some testimony about after Mollie disappeared and you realized that she was truly missing. Do you recall that testimony?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Last week when you were here testifying and you truly realized that she was missing, you took some action. Do you recall that testimony?
In terms, like, I remember what I did whenever that happened, yes.
Sure. What'd you do?
I immediately started making phone calls and getting people to try to check on her.
Okay. Did you try to call Mollie?
Yes.
How many times did you try to call Mollie?
I don't have an exact number for that, I'm sorry.
Well, guess for me.
I guess would be completely inaccurate, but I'll give you maybe 10.
Okay. Is it possible you only called Mollie one time?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So, how many times did you text her?
I also don't have a number for you on that one.
Okay. So if the records show you only called her one time, that would be the accurate number.
Absolutely, yes.
Explain to me why you only tried to call your girlfriend who was missing one time in the days following her disappearance.
I don't know. I've tried to get other people to look for her as well.
She's the love of your life, right?
Yes.
And you're not blowing up her phone?
I don't know if I did or not, but I don't know why I would only call her one time.
Well, if I showed you your phone records, would it refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Permission to approach?
Go ahead.
Mr. Jack, I'm showing you your phone records from July 15, 2018 through July 19, 2018. Go ahead and take a look at those.
I'm sorry, what am I don't know how to read this. What am I looking at?
We'll lay a little more foundation. Mr. Jack, in your phone, you had a contact for Mollie, right?
Yep.
And what'd you call her?
Baby girl. I called her baby girl.
So anytime you would call her or she would call you, it would come up as baby girl.
Correct.
So your phone records, if they dumped your phone, we should look for an outgoing call or an incoming call from baby girl,
Yes.
right? And like when you're calling your dad, it says dad, right?
Yes.
Mom says mom, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't use your phone that much as a phone, do you?
But what do you mean?
You're more of a texter.
Yeah. I mean, not anymore, but yeah.
Okay. So with that, and I placed a document in front of you to refresh your recollection, Mr. Jack. You see that document?
Yes.
Are you able to read that document?
The format's kind of weird, but I think I can piece it together for you, yeah.
Okay, if you can piece it together for me, that's a phone record, correct?
Yeah.
And that phone record shows the dates of 7/15/2018 through 7/19/2018, correct?
I'm going to object to this witness using this as a reference. He's not an expert with regard to phone records. I'm not sure this, if he's going to refresh his memory, then he should allow it to refresh his memory instead of putting in what's in the document through testimony of a witness who clearly did not create it.
Are you trying to refresh his memory?
Yes.
Okay, we'll proceed that way then.
It refreshes your recollection, Mr. Jack?
Yes.
Has it done so?
Sure, yes.
Having your recollection refreshed, now tell the jury how many times the name baby girl shows up on here.
Was highlighted once and check marked once.
Okay. You recall your testimony the other day about Jordan Lamb?
Yes.
You told Mr. Brown that the relationship with Jordan Lamb was like a one-day thing, right?
Yes.
That's not true, is it?
What do you mean by that?
You had more than one relationship, more than one time having a relationship with Jordan Lamb, right?
Not to my recollection by any means.
You recall having conversations with Mollie going back to early 2017 where she was angry with Jordan.
Yes.
And why was that?
The gentleman object to relevance.
Overruled.
Why was she angry with Jordan?
I don't know.
I am going to object to that on other grounds. He can not speculate as to what Mollie Tibbetts may have thought. That's what he's asking this young man. We would object on speculation.
Okay, that's a different objection, and that objection I'll sustain.
But you do acknowledge that Mollie was upset with Jordan in as early as January of 2017.
Same objection.
Given how the question is phrased, I'm going to overrule it, and again, the witness can answer if he knows.
I don't know.
In April of 2017, Mollie was happy that you deleted Jordan off Snapchat. Do you recall that?
No.
You don't? Do you recall having a telephone or a text conversation with Mollie in April, specifically April 6, 2017, where Mollie said to you that she was definitely glad you deleted Jordan off Snapchat?
I do.
Objected calls for hearsay. It's also not relevant.
Overruled.
I do not remember that, sir.
If I showed you a record of that conversation, would it refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Mr. Jack, is your recollection refreshed now?
Yes.
Mollie said that to you.
It's on a record for a text, yes.
Okay. And does it refresh your recollection as at all as to why she was upset?
She didn't seem upset in that text chain.
Do you know why she said she was definitely glad you deleted Jordan off Snapchat?
Objection again calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Tell the jury how you responded to that comment.
Mollie's said that she was glad that she deleted me off Snapchat because Jordan was wearing apparently a skimpy outfit and put it on her story, and that Mollie didn't want me seeing that. And then I responded with, "She a hoe," and then the conversation then went from there.
Okay. You said she a hoe.
That
right?
is the exact verbiage that I just read on that sheet, yes.
What does that mean?
I think that was just a slang term, I guess. I don't know how to put that, but
I don't understand.
saying that she was immorally in straight, I guess.
An immoral woman?
Sure.
Was it a flattering comment?
That was not a flattering comment, no.
Okay. And it's your testimony that she wasn't upset about the relationship between you and Jordan at this point?
Objection, Judge, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
You recall buying Mollie a promise ring in May of 2017.
Yes.
You recall Mollie taking off that promise ring in June of 2017.
Yes, I do.
Why'd she take it off?
Objections, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Do you know why Mollie took it off?
Objection, same objection.
Different question.
And different ruling. Witness may answer if he knows.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Do you know why she took it off?
Why she took off the promise ring?
Yes.
Because of the relationship with Jordan.
What relationship with Jordan?
The one that had been previously stated of our affair, I guess you would call it.
So you had a relationship with Jordan pre-June 2017.
Objections, been asked and answered.
Overruled. I'll let the witness answer.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Prior to June 2017, you had the sexual relationship with Jordan Lamb.
Not sexual, no.
Okay. So Mollie takes off the ring because of what relationship then with Jordan?
There was a texting, I guess, relationship.
Tell us more about that.
I don't remember like the semantics of it, but we talked back and forth.
What about?
Anything, I guess.
What's anything? I mean, obviously it made Mollie upset enough to take off her promise ring.
Objections, calls for hearsay.
Overruled. Witness may answer if he knows.
I would love to give you an answer, sir, but I don't know.
You don't recall?
Don't recall.
So when I asked you earlier about Mollie's issues with Jordan and you maybe having a relationship of some sort with Jordan going back to 2017, is your recollection refreshed now?
I don't remember any other than like the one-time physical relationship with Jordan. I don't remember any other time that happened.
Well, you were texting her in 2017, right?
Yes.
And then in 2018, before Mollie goes to California, you start texting her or Snapchatting her again, right?
Yes.
And that's when it got physical, right?
Yes.
You had sex with her in 2018, right before Mollie went to California, right?
I don't know.
Okay. Is it possible you had sex with her before then?
Yes.
So this whole Jordan thing has been going on for a year, right?
Don't object to the form of questions mischaracterized what the witness has said so far with regard to his relationship with Jordan Lamb.
Well, I think the point's well taken. I'm going to sustain it, and Mr. Freeze, if you want to attempt to rephrase it, that's fine.
So we know in 2017, Mollie's upset with you because you're having some sort of relationship, whether it's texting or whatever with Jordan. And we know it happens again in 2018, right?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear you.
Can you read it back?
We know in 2017, Mollie is upset with you because you're having some sort of relationship, whether it is texting or whatever, and we know it happens again in 2018, right?
Yes.
So between June of 2017, when Mollie takes the promise ring off, and tell us what the promise ring signifies.
Promise ring signifies, like, it's not an engagement ring, it's like a precursor to an engagement ring, I guess, if that makes sense.
You promised yourself to her.
Yes.
You gave her this ring and said, I'm yours and yours only, right?
Yes.
You gave her an oath of fidelity, right?
Yes.
And then a month later, she finds out you weren't living up to that oath, right?
Yes.
Okay. Between the time she took her promise ring off and then the following spring, when she goes to California, you and Jordan continued to have some sort of relationship, didn't you?
I don't know.
You telling me you didn't text her or Snapchat her, nothing like that?
Not that I can recall at all.
Okay. But you certainly did in April of 2018. You tried to strike up a new relationship with her, didn't you?
Not that I can recall on that either.
Well, in April of 2018, you and Mollie had a text conversation where she got upset because Jordan screenshot something from her Snapchat story, right?
Not that I recall, but I believe it, yeah.
You don't recall having a conversation with Mollie where she asked you, yo, why did she screenshot this?
No.
You don't recall Mollie saying to you she was about to get confrontational?
No, I don't remember that either.
I showed you a record of that conversation. Would it refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Having your recollection refreshed, do you now recall having a conversation on April 8th, 2018 with Mollie about Jordan snapshotting or screenshotting a Snapchat?
I still don't remember the conversation in full, but yeah, I remember that happening.
And that conversation was about Jordan, right?
Yes.
And you told Mollie that Jordan was crazy, right?
Yes.
Object is relevance as well as hearsay on all of this.
Overruled. Witness may answer.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
You told Mollie that Jordan was crazy, right?
I don't know. I only read that front page, sir. I'm sorry. I didn't know.
If I showed you the second page, would it help you?
Yes. Not trying to cause problems up here. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, we're gonna do that here.
Okay.
Is your recollection refreshed?
Yep. Sorry, yes.
Now, was my recitation of what this conversation was about wrong?
No.
So she was confronting you about Jordan screenshotting something, right?
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you had deleted Jordan off your Snapchat before, right?
Yes.
Now, tell us how Snapchat works. For someone to see you on Snapchat, you have to add them, right?
That was through Mollie's Snapchat. She Snapchatted Mollie's
Okay.
story, not mine.
So you hadn't added her through Snapchat?
Not that I can recall, no.
Okay, because I'm looking at a comment here from you. It says, she added me again and snapped me some rude-ass shit about me.
About, I'm sorry, what?
Judge, I'm going to object to reading in contents of the record as improper as hearsay.
Sustained.
read the first highlighted portion. Tell me if that refreshes your recollection. Does that refresh your recollection?
I suppose so.
Well, yes or no?
Yes.
So Snapchat works where someone can only communicate with you if you add them, right?
Yes.
And to add them, that takes an affirmative action by you, right?
Yes.
And you told Molly that she added you, and therefore you added her back, right?
You don't have to be able to send messages.
But you were communicating with her, weren't you?
From the context of that text message, it sounded like she was just communicating with me.
Okay. Well, the next day, Jordan was communicating with Molly, wasn't she?
I don't recall, but
For clarification, what's the date that we're talking about here again? I don't believe they have a context, so I would object on that basis.
Well, I guess then I'll sustain the objection, and Mr. Freeze, you can proceed at this point in time, but we need a date, some reference point that we're talking about.
I had said April 8th. So now we're talking about April 9th. Molly and Jordan had talked, right?
I don't recall.
You don't recall Jordan sending copies of messages to Molly?
No.
You don't recall Molly busting you with Snapchat messages between you and Jordan?
Object to the form of the question. It's argumentative.
Sustained.
You don't recall Molly confronting you with messages sent to her by Jordan Lamb of you and her talking?
I don't recall that, no.
Do you deny sending messages to Jordan Lamb while Molly was leaving for California in 2018?
No, I don't.
Okay. So you admit that you were having a text message or a Snapchat conversation with Jordan Lamb in March and April 2018?
I don't recall it, so I'm not going to admit it, but I'm not going to admit it, but I'm not going to deny it either.
Okay.
I guess. Is that probably word that?
But on April 8, 2018, having your recollection refreshed, you didn't just come clean to Molly and say, I've been talking to Jordan, did you?
Probably did not.
Do you recall talking to Agent Matt George on July 27th?
That name doesn't ring a bell, no.
You recall talking to DCI agents?
Yes, I talked to a lot of them.
You recall talking to the one who interviewed you last?
No.
You recall meeting with a DCI agent and them saying you didn't come forward to us originally with information about Jordan Lamb?
Objections calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
Do you recall having a conversation with Agent Matt George on July 27, 2018?
No.
Do you recall telling him that you just came clean about Jordan Lamb right away to Molly?
Objections calls for hearsay.
Overruled.
No, I don't.
Okay. So if he testifies to that, his recollection would probably be more clear than yours, wouldn't it?
Objections calls for speculation as to what somebody else may have thought.
Sustained.
So on April 9th, 2018, you and Molly, you don't recall having a conversation with her about Jordan Lamb?
No, sir.
Okay. You don't recall her asking if you wanted to be with Jordan over her?
No, sir.
Everybody objects calls for hearsay.
Overruled. Go ahead.
If I showed you a record of that, would that refresh your recollection?
We'll find out, yes.
A simple yes will do.
Okay.
Mr. Jack, does that document refresh your recollection?
That one does not refresh my recollection. I still don't remember any of that, but I clearly said or did it.
Said or did what?
I mean, that's my phone number on that page, and that's her phone number on that page, so that conversation is between us.
But you don't remember it?
No, I don't remember it.
Did you black it out?
I just don't remember it.
This is a day after the Dalton or the Jordan Lamb discussion, right?
Yes, I believe that's what the dates.
Okay. Was she wearing her promise ring at this time?
I don't remember that either.
Okay. Remember the other day we talked about whether or not you were known to get angry and fight, right?
Yes.
Now, whoever did this to Mollie committed a very violent crime. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that the person that committed it was very angry?
I don't know the mindset of the person that did it, but
Okay. Anger could be one of those mindsets, couldn't it?
yes.
At any point in the 12 months before Mollie disappeared, did you ever tell her that you realized you were clinically insane?
I have.
Object. It's not relevant. I'm not sure there's a time frame that's on it. If he did put one on it, I don't think it's relevant.
You referenced within the last year, correct?
I did.
Okay, objection's overruled.
I don't remember that at all either.
Did you ever, within the, well, let's just pick this date, October 31, 2017. Did you mention to Mollie that you have a temper?
I don't remember.
Did you, on October 31, mention to Mollie that a person can't tell till you see it in action?
Judge, I'm going to object. Calls for hearsay, whether it's Dalton's statement or somebody else's.
Sustained.
Did you and Mollie have a conversation that included those comments?
I don't remember.
Would you, seeing a document that said that, refresh your recollection?
Yes.
While we're looking for that, let's move on, Mr. Jack. You recall in October 30, 2017, you and Mollie's relationship kind of hit a real bump, didn't it?
I don't recall that either. No.
That's when she told you she was moving in with friends.
Then yeah, I remember.
And that upset you.
Yes, it did.
You told her you were angry about that.
Yes.
She was ditching you.
Yes.
That's the term you used, right?
Yes.
And even in that date, you told her you were thinking about breaking up during college, right?
I don't recall that at all.
Okay. I'll show you this document, have you look at it. Going back to the temper thing. I don't know if it refreshes recollection, Mr. Jack.
Judge, prior to doing that, can we get a date and time on this particular document he's showing him?
October 31, 2017.
Thank you.
Does that document refresh your recollection?
I do not remember the context in which that was said at all, sir.
Okay. Does it refresh your recollection?
What is that? No.
You don't recall telling Mollie that you had a temper?
No.
You don't recall saying that's what makes you dangerous?
No.
But the record says that. Do you deny the accuracy of the record?
No.
Do you deny?
Please, let me jump in here and stop you. We need to take a break. Members of the jury, we'll take a 10-minute recess. Want to remind you of your admonition. You can leave your notebooks where they are, and you can exit when you're ready. Mr. Jack, you can go ahead and step down, okay?